The Star Wars Tales of the Jedi, which is an animated anthology series on Disney Plus. It premiered this past Wednesday. It is a collection of short stories. You have 6 episodes, usually ranging from about 13 to 17 minutes typically, so very, very kind of short kind of episodes here. And it's focusing mostly on the kind of prequel trilogy, where it's mostly kind of following Count Dooku and his kind of crossover to the dark side. You also get a little bit of backstory with Ahsoka Tano, and how to see she got discovered to be a Jedi, and kind of her life after Order 66. You get to see kind of a little bit of that.
And a little bit of the background of why she survived when so many other Jedi didn't.
Yeah. So you kind of get to see that a little bit here in this 6 episode series. And then also a big thing, you have characters like Liam Neeson, who returns as Qui-Gon Jinn, like he did. You saw the live action version of him where he was in Obi-Wan, the Kenobi series. You have, because you also have a younger Qui-Gon Jinn in this, who's the Padawan to Count Dooku, who is voiced by the son of Liam Neeson, which is also a fun little tidbit there. I said that, hey, I mean, Hayden Christensen came back, Ewan McGregor came back, Liam Neeson came back. Hey, Natalie Portman, it's time for Natalie Portman to come back. I mean, everybody else is kind of coming back. I think it's time for her to make an appearance, come back to Star Wars. Everybody else is doing it, so why not her?
Yep. And speaking of returning castmates, we also have from the Clone Wars show, we have Ashley Eckstein reprising her role as Ahsoka Tano. We have Corey Burton as Count Dooku. We have Matt Lanter as Anakin, and James Arnold Taylor, who is the voice of Obi-Wan, and of course the man himself, D. Bradley Baker, as Captain Rex.
Yeah. And I kind of like this, like it's telling a little bit more about Count Dooku kind of traveling over to the dark side. And you see kind of what led him down that path. And you see kind of how he had this issue a little bit with with the kind of the order, what the Republic was doing. You see that, you see his interaction with other people, like he's very much questioning things, like why are we really doing this? Like this doesn't really seem right. You see that in his interaction with Mace Windu. And you see kind of how he was more further pushed to the dark side and then fully complete when Qui-Gon Jinn dies, when he gets killed by Darth Maul. Which I thought that was also, kind of a good dynamic, which I thought would have been interesting to see in the movie itself, about how that connection with Qui-Gon Jinn, really kind of was a pivotal kind of thing for him, and that was very important for him to lead him down to the dark path. What was kind of for you? What were some things you really liked about Tales of the Jedi?
For me, Tales of the Jedi, it basically is the Count Dooku story. This is giving us so much more background into his character, why he is the way he is, adding way more depth than either the films or even the Clone Wars series, what appearances we had from him did, because they portray him so much as this guy who's lost his faith and is just doing what he thinks is right for the galaxy, which I think is a much more interesting take than just the kind of mustache twirling villain that Christopher Lee gave us in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah. Christopher Lee, he's a phenomenal actor. He is, and I think he could have added a lot more depth than what he was given in something like as Count Dooku in the prequel trilogy there. And I think you see kind of like through other mediums, cartoon shows, things like that, the Clone Wars, it more fleshes out other kind of characters that you see. Like I think the Clone Wars animated show does a better job at telling like the whole Clone Wars saga than the whole prequel trilogy, because TV show you get to be able to do more things with it than you did in the movie, and a lot of other great stuff that comes from Star Wars, the lore, the mythology, really doesn't come that much from George Lucas. Obviously I think George Lucas is a good idea guy. He created, it was his brainchild, Star Wars, but also a lot of other people kind of coming in and adding their own kind of thing to the lore of Star Wars also helped expanded it. Stuff like with Boba Fett, or stuff like with, like with the Clone Wars stuff, that I think really helped it a lot. So I think that was good. So you have these kind of 6 episodes. The first episode you have Life and Death, which is Ahsoka Tano. That's the episode of Ahsoka Tano. Kind of you see her village, her family, her community there. You kind of see that. You have the second episode, Justice, which is focused on Count Dooku and Qui-Gon Jinn, who's in a hostage situation. Then you have Choices, which is the episode with Count Dooku and Mace Windu. Sith Lord. That's the episode with Qui-Gon Jinn and Dooku about the Sith presence there. And then it's also with Yaddle as well. Who, hey, Yaddle, she's doing something. Hey, good old Yaddle.
Yaddle, she gets to do something. And we also discover something very important. We discover that Yoda is either is trolling people with the way he speaks, or he just has a speech impediment.
Yeah, or maybe Yoda's on the spectrum. I don't know. Maybe he's a little, he's got kind of, he's on a little bit on the spectrum a little bit. Because Yaddle, she talks just like a regular, you know what I mean? She just talks.
She talks completely normal, and she's voiced by Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah, great for her. Bryce Dallas Howard, who is fully into the fold of the Star Wars family. She directed episodes of Mandalorian. She also directed episodes of Book of Boba Fett, didn't she? She direct episode? Yeah, she directed.
Yeah, she did. She directed the best episode, which was the Mandalorian one.
She directed the best episode. Yeah, the Mandalorian one. Yeah, so she did that. She comes in as Yaddle, who discovers that Count Dooku is training under Darth Sidious there. Then you have the episode number 5, Practice Makes Perfect, where you see kind of the dynamic between Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka, who I haven't finished the Clone Wars series by Dave Filoni, but I do think that kind of relationship between Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano, like that relationship, was a great thing in the series of Master and Padawan. What did you kind of think about their relationship? I don't know how much you've seen of Clone Wars, the show, but or just what you think about it.
I've finished all of Clone Wars, and the highlight of it is the relationship between Anakin and Ahsoka, because we get so much more depth to Anakin's character throughout the entire entire prequel trilogy, and they actually do way more to set up his turn in the dark side than I think Lucas did. And so much of that is just his dynamic with Ahsoka, how much he, is initially the reluctant teacher and then becomes the caring partner, mentor, and friend to them. It's like to the point where the last scene in Clone Wars is Darth Vader going up to the shipwreck of Ahsoka's a cruiser and finding her lightsabers, and it's heartbreaking. And that is the highlight of the entire series. And seeing this episode, it was nice getting back to that dynamic.
Yeah. And he puts it through the paces in that episode of wanting her to be the best. And I kind of enjoyed that.
Basically puts her in a shooting gallery with a bunch of clones.
A bunch of the clone troopers, them practicing and training. It's like you got to do the real deal. They're giving her kind of the hardcore training.
Yeah, droids are predictable, clones aren't, which I think is essentially them retconning why she, out of all of the other Jedi and Padawans that have died, why she was one of the few survivors.
Yeah. And then you had the final episode 6, Resolve, which depicts kind of, so it's basically what they kind of did. It took them 8 episodes to do, in Kenobi they did in like 17 minutes, and this episode here basically of showing her where she's kind of just living, after Order 66, just trying to live kind of a quiet life after this, trying to just move on, where she's kind of a farmer, and you see that. And then you had one dumbass kid who had to snitch because he's a little bootlicker. So he had to go run and tell the Empire that the Jedi was there.
Your boot, sir.
Yeah.
Your boot, sir.
And that caused the whole village to get burned down and everything like that. I thought that was kind of solid. So for you, what was kind of your favorite episode, and what was kind of your worst episode with this? Or did you even have a worst episode with this series?
I don't really have a worst episode. I kind of put them all on... I think the floor for these episodes are like a low tune-in. But the absolute best one for me is the Sith Lord, because I think that's the one where we get the most of Count Dooku's arc, who is, well, let's face it, this show is mostly about him. and it's the one where his arc that was built up in the previous two episodes finally comes full circle about how his disillusionment with the Jedi Order, with the Republic, and why he got seduced to the dark side and Darth Sidious, and how even adding context to potentially how long he was training under Sidious for,
Mm,
because they implied that they were working together all the way back prior to the Phantom Menace.
yeah. Uh, uh, so Sith Lord is your favorite episode. Do you think you could rank some of the episodes? Like if you had to go from like maybe best to possible least best for you?
Dude, I don't know. I think all of these episodes, like I said, the floor for them is like is a solid tune in.
Mm,
I think the one that is kind of the, I'd say, weakest one, and it's not because of anything the show did. I think the weakest one is possibly the first episode, Life and Death,
mm,
because it is kind of interesting to see, but it wasn't really something I was interested in. I mean, I love Ahsoka as a character, but seeing her as an infant kind of does nothing for me.
mm. Maybe they gotta sell the toys, sell the plushie, baby Ahsoka.
Yep. Yeah, that's the one that felt the most like it was just selling a toy.
For me, I guess I'd go with Justice. I think that was maybe my favorite one. That was the one with,
Mm.
and you see a young Qui Gon Jinn there and kind of handle the situation. I did like that one quite a bit. But he's supposed to be Qui Gon's supposed to be a Padawan, but he doesn't got the rat tail. He doesn't got the rat tail kind of going on there. I was kind of surprised by
I
that.
mean, not that we saw.
Not that we saw at least. And I think it gives more dimension to Qui Gon Jinn, who, like, if you had to describe him in the prequels, it's like, how do you really describe him? It's like he's kind of wise, I guess. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's trying to trick a guy out of using the Jedi mind trick out of, you know what I mean, out of parts. Like how do you really describe him in the prequels? Um, you know,
Well, he in the prequels, he's what little we see of him. He's like one of the few Jedi that's actually questioning a lot of the decision the Council makes, and he's a little bit more open-minded compared to the rest of the Jedi Order, which I think is a really interesting dynamic, and it's given so much more depth just seeing his interactions with Count Dooku.
yeah. So you see kind of like a little bit where he gets it from there of that kind of questioning things a little bit. And you see him kind of a little bit of when he's older now, a Jedi Master. Now he is Obi-Wan as a Padawan. And you see kind of him interacting with Count Dooku, talking about Obi-Wan. And I think that's kind of interesting to see that kind of dynamic. I wish they kind of showed that in the prequels, showed them kind of master, former master and former Padawan there. I think that would have made them interesting. I think that would have, more fleshed out those characters of Dooku and Qui-Gon Jinn. If I had to say maybe one of my least kind of favorite episodes here for me, I think you're right. I think it would be the first episode. The first episode and maybe episode 6, Resolve. I think would kind of maybe be between those two episodes. Like I said, her as a kid, I was like, okay. I mean, seeing a little bit. I guess that was just her Jedi powers that like had her survive the tiger or whatever. I guess it was like she was able to communicate with it. I guess that's what saved her. And allowed people to believe that she was a Jedi. It's just kind of like it was decent. But again, these episodes, I think they do great at getting in, getting out, because they're only 13, 17 minutes. So tell the story, get in, get out. Next episode, let's go. That you're already kind of watching it. So I appreciated that, that they kind of do that. I thought this was kind of strong. I think with this and with Andor, you got two good things to really watch.
Star Wars is back, baby.